Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. Today I'm joined with Helen Müller, who is the author of You, Me, and Happiness and 4 Keys to Happiness. Helen, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Dan. It's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Looking forward to this conversation. We were talking a little bit offline, and I think we'll probably revisit some of the points we talked about during that conversation. We probably could have just recorded it and stuck it in here. But nonetheless, before we get started, introduce yourself to the audience. Who is Helen? In your own words, who is Helen today?
Hi, audience. Yes, I am Helen Müller. I'm the founder of You, Me, and Happiness. And who I am today, people call me a DNA upgrade specialist and coach to top entrepreneurs and leaders. But I am just a happy person traveling the world and learning every day more about myself and trying to do some good in the world at the same time.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So before we start talking about what you're doing professionally, I want to again revisit the topic we were talking about offline, because you really are a nomad, a gypsy, similar to me in a much larger sense, though. I mean, we're pretty much going to be confined to wherever the RV can take us. So we're going to be US, Canada, Mexico, that sort of stuff. But you are literally a world traveler and a world nomad, never in one place for a very long time. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because I love, kind of connecting with people who have that same free gypsy spirit as what I do. So, tell me a little bit about what it was that prompted you to start traveling, and what was it in your spirit that was, that couldn't be planted, so to speak, in one spot?
Then I think it's my inquisitive nature, where when I was raised on a farm in South Africa. So I was technically, staying in one place for a long time, but I was always walking in the mountains. Like I was not much in the house, and I was also in boarding school. So I did move a little bit around, I suppose. I was in boarding school from age 13. And I was also always dreaming about places and things, but never actually thinking I want to go, I would go there. I was just quite content with dreaming about it. And that's how I believe I ended up in the United States when I was 18. It was kind of my first traveling experience, because when I was like in high school, I used to walk in the mountains and I used to dream about America. And of course I would watch movies, all these like Christmas movies about America. And I remember watching, The Horse Whisperer. And I wanted to go to Montana. I thought, I love this American picture of Montana with the horses and all of that. So I used to dream about this. And then I would start acting it out in cabaret in school. We had these English cabaret, and I would do like a kind of a Western or kind of country feeling cabaret with my group of people. So I was like doing all these like American things. And then my parents wanted me to study, but I did not know what I wanted to study. And then there came this group of people to our school, to the high school, and it was au pair in America. And I saw it and I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I want to go to America and do this au pair in America. And it took a lot of convincing, actually, for my parents to actually let me go. But that's how I ended up in America when I was 18. And I'll never forget it. I arrived, by plane in America and in New York. And as soon as I was on the bus, and it was on the bus to New York, and then the sun was coming through the window, and there was like loads of trees, and the shadows were coming on me, and I had my headphones on. I was listening to a song or something, and I just felt like I'm home. I know it sounds silly or something, but I don't know if it was the traveling that I felt like I'm home traveling, or I'm home in America or something. But yeah, and then after that, I just never stopped traveling. Kind of opened up my world, and I just was amazed by all these people. And we talked about that before as well, when you said what you love about traveling was the people. And initially for me, that was the main motivation as well, because I just saw, wow, there's so many people, so many different people, and everybody believes a different thing and they have a different way of living, but we all, you know, kind of get along and we find some way to be together. And I don't know, yeah, I think that was very satisfying for me at that stage for my growth as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so after that first trip to the United States, then where was your next trip to? And how was that different from your trip to the US?
Oh, okay. After that, I went back. First, I went to England. Yes, no, hang on, no, I didn't. I just quickly passed through England. Then I went back, and then I was in South Africa for a long time, for 5 years. I had to study. Then I had to get my degree, and I had to do all of that. I made myself a promise. As soon as I finish studying, I will go back. It was a funny story because I don't know if you've seen this movie, The Last Castle. Have you
No.
seen the movie? I think it's Robert Redford that's in that. It's called The Last Castle, and then it's about a prison. It's a prison movie about a takeover of a prison or something. And then the prison ward asks him, "What is your expectation of your time here at the Lost Castle, the castle, which is the prison's name?" And he said, "Nothing. I expect nothing. I just want to do my time and go home." And I remember in my English class in my first year, the teacher asked us, "So what do you expect of your time here?" You know, and I got up and I was like, "Nothing. I expect nothing. I just want to do my time and go home." And I meant like I want to go back to America. Anyway, so yeah, I studied all of that time, and then I stayed by my promise. I actually got into a serious relationship, and I studied another year, you know, because of that. I got my, you know, extra year, and then I left and I went back to America. I went back to America after that, after about 4 or 5 years, because I made myself that promise to go back. Yeah.
So with with all the traveling that you've done, and like I said, on really a much larger scale than what we're doing, because you're traveling all over the world, and experiencing. I mean, here in America, there's, as you know from your your own visits here, I mean, there's so many different cultures within our country, but the way you're traveling with all these different countries, I mean, there's just everywhere is a completely different culture. So how has that helped, really kind of form you as a human being to experience all these different cultures?
The challenge it brings, where you have to kind of forget who you are in a sense. I think people find a lot of safety, and I feel it much more so now being in Portugal, because this has been more challenging years for me being in one country, especially a country which I didn't choose, like, oh, the United States, I want to go there. It's been a dream of mine. I'm here and I'm getting, European citizenship, specifically here in Portugal. So I'm here for a different reason. But I think people find a lot of safety in their culture. And when you purposefully kind of take yourself out of that and expose yourself to, other cultures, it's challenging. Now, it's challenging on your being, because now you have to really sit and think, who are you, in essence?
Right.
And you have to connect with that essence of that person as well. You kind of have to strip all of that cultural things off them in a way to kind of get to that essence of them. And then, this. So, yeah, I think that part has really helped me also in my quest when I was searching for that answer to happiness. I think unbeknowingly that helped me understand myself and even understand the essence of other people by kind of, seeing it from that angle.
Yeah. And before we started recording, we both talked about the freedom that's involved in, living this, nomadic lifestyle. And, if you could just expand on that a little bit, as well for the listeners, as to, what that freedom means to me and to you, and, how you really kind of define freedom in this lifestyle.
I see it coming back again to our true nature, where we are consciousness, and consciousness is kind of a holistic thing, right? And how I feel the world has been kind of structured with cultures and countries and rules and things. Okay, yes, there needs to be rules. It's our society and we are part of it and we agree to be a part of it. But it causes a lot of separation, I believe. I don't know if you agree with me on that. And yeah. And in essence, from a consciousness perspective, we are free, right? And we are all like one thing. So for me, how I see it is, I always thought, our creator has given us this entire world as a free space, I believe. So I'm going to explore it as a free individual. And I was very lucky. I met a woman who made a big impact on me in my life. And before I did my Atlantic crossing on the sailboat, she said to me, or any kind of restriction I had in my mind, even with the South African passport that I have that makes it difficult to travel or less free to travel. She said, it's like a mindset thing. And she kind of opened up my world to this free traveling as well. And I kind of experimented with that as well, where I said, okay, fine, I'm just going to go. I'm not going to think about the fact that I need to abide by this rule or abide by that rule. I can't get in here, or I can't get in there. I'm just going to imagine it's like one big space. The whole world is like my freedom to go there. So yeah, so for me, freedom is just to be, to be and to intuitively follow that path that we talked about before as well. I always encourage people to travel. And even if they say, I don't have money to travel, I never had money to travel and I did.
Right.
And I always said, you don't only have to decide that you're going to go somewhere. And then once you get there, it works out. But you just got to have enough money to get there.
Right.
Like seriously, when you get there, it works out. You find your way, you things work out. And it's amazing how, things just kind of orchestrate and come together. And that's the excitement of traveling as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it is amazing how it always does, work out for sure. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about what you do professionally. So your website is You, Me, and Happiness, and that's really kind of the theme. And at the top of your homepage, underneath the title, you have in there, I just wanted to be happy. So tell me a little bit about how, that journey started for you and how you got to where you are today.
It was that question that got me started, because I thought, why am I here? Why I have to get up every day and do all these things or get a career or whatever? I wanted to know why I'm doing all these things. Still to this day, I cannot do something. Either if I struggle to do some things that I don't enjoy, I by all means try to prevent that. And then I need to also understand what I'm doing. Otherwise, I can't really function like that. I want things to be kind of, in my mind in place at least, And that was the question. So I asked myself, when I've kind of got some common sense and started reading and stuff in high school, asked myself, so what do you want? You can have anything you want, Helen. Because I always knew I had the ability to get everything I want. Inherently, I knew that. And I know that. But I just wanted to know what it is that I want. So I asked myself, okay, and I want to be happy. That was the answer. But I really kind of thought about it, because everybody says that. Everybody wants to be happy. So I also knew that, yes, everybody says they want to be happy, but I see that they're not happy. But it's a common thing that people say. But I was also, noticing what's going on, really. So I thought, I will find this answer, even if it's the last thing that I do. So I reverse engineered my life. And I like this word reverse engineer because I feel with a lot of things, if we want to find solutions to things, is we find it when we reverse engineer a process, it's something. Yeah. So I reversed and I thought, okay, at the end of your life, that's what you want, fulfillment. So I will first find that. And then I save myself that, I save myself that heartache at the end. And that's what set me on my quest. So it took me 10 years to search for that answer. And I just traveled, in those 10 years as well. I mean, I didn't travel specifically to find the answer. I traveled because I didn't really know what I wanted to do professionally. And I loved traveling. And I kind of also saw it as a way to fast forward evolution. I really found that traveling really helps you evolve as a human being quite much faster because of all the challenges that you have to go through. As I said before, you're not in that safety zone of being at home between your friends and your family and your comfort and all of that. Yeah, so that's part of it. Do you want to ask me some more questions before I can? Because I can probably talk longer about that. Then I wrote the book, so I found the answer, wrote the book, You, Me, and Happiness. And then I used that as my first digital product. And I studied through Annick Singal. And he was one of the top entrepreneurs voted in Business Week at that time. And it was kind of a random, I tell this little story on every podcast, but it's a good story. How I found him is a friend of mine sent me a link to sign up for some Make Money Online course thing. And then she sent me the wrong link, but it ended up being the right link for me. And I used that to then make my first digital product. And then from there, the coaching kind of started. And then from there, it's just my research started with the natural biohacks. And then I used this technique that I work with now, Dina Upgrade, is one of the natural biohacks that I then started working with, that produced some really good results for clients. And that's where we are now. So it's kind of like, it's kind of a progression from the happiness to then super efficiency, but it's all also because of my own evolution that kind of it took shape that way.
Yeah, and I think the travel that you've done has probably really enhanced that so much more in that pursuit. And it's interesting that you said that you didn't necessarily start to travel to find that answer, but you did end up finding it through travel. And part of what led us down this journey was me taking 2 solo road trips back in 2019. One was to Dallas, Texas, and through Louisiana and back to Pennsylvania. The other was to Orlando, Florida, and back to Pennsylvania. And the creativity that I found after those 2 trips is really what inspired me to sell all of our stuff and start to travel. So once you kind of found that answer for yourself, what was it that specifically inspired writing the book? So I love to hear, again, from a fellow author, I love to hear, what that inspiration was to make you want to sit down and put it on paper and share it with others.
I always just wanted to write a book. That was pretty much it. And then because I was so heavily invested in the subject of happiness, I decided to write on it. And I started writing this book a couple of times, actually. And then when I went back and read it, I was like, oh, this is boring. I don't like it. I still have those pieces. I don't know. Maybe at some point I'll do something with it because it's funny. But and then eventually I started writing just kind of because the book is like a 365 days, you know. It was first called Happy Days or something, unoriginal name. But then, you know, it turned into Yumi and Happiness because I'm sure there's a lot of happy days out there. And yeah, and so it kind of, because of my attention span at that time, I thought, okay, fine. I know I can write like, you know, 365 pieces, you know, of this like stuff every day, you know, like one a day. And that's how that's what happened. But the inspiration did come from, I would say, the wanting to write a book, just to have, because I wanted to just write a book. And also I met somebody at that time. I was in England and I met this businessman, and that kind of also set me on the journey with working with entrepreneurs and business people. And he was not fulfilled. He had everything. And at that time, you know, like that, actually, when I started writing that book, it was before I found the answer. I started writing that book before I found the answer, but you know, I finished it after. And he wasn't fulfilled. And I thought, I don't want to end up like this one day. And at that time, I was very close to give up. Right. I was hitting like a low spot that time, you know, when I was writing that book. I'll never forget it. I was in England. And I was like really reaching a low point. And I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this anymore. It's been a long time, you know, for me searching for this answer. And I was like, and it's usually like that, you know, when you're just about to give up on something. And then, you know, it happens. But yeah, so I saw him. I was like, I don't want to end up like this one day. Got everything, but I'm not fulfilled. I'm not happy. I'm still searching. And he, because I was traveling, all he could talk about was his travel experiences. I've been here, I've been there, I did this, I did that, you know. And other than that, he was busy with his businesses. And he was just, you know, very successful in his businesses. And he had this beautiful girlfriend. And, you know, she was lovely, but he wasn't happy. He was healthy. He was good looking. You know, I really can't say anything. I mean, of course, I don't know this man inside out, but I spent some time with him at that time. And it wasn't something hugely, I mean, he had family. He was even visiting his family that time when I met him. But he wasn't happy. And I thought, no, I'm going to find this answer. I need to know what the secret is.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's kind of also what his name was Mick. Yeah, Mick inspired me to write that book as well.
Yeah. And it's interesting. There are so many people out there who, you know, when you look at them on the surface and, you know, look at the material things they have, it does seem like they have everything, but yet they are still unhappy. I mean, you can see that with just the number of, you know, celebrity suicides that happen, you know, that, you know, again, these are people who, you know, from the outside, we're looking at them and they seem like they have everything, but yet they still weren't fulfilled. And it really does prove that happiness isn't about material things. It isn't about, you know, what we have, you know, whether it's in our bank account or, you know, stuff that we have. It really is something that's found within, and something that, you know, you've got to make a choice. You know, you have to, you know, actually make a choice that you're going to be happy. And that doesn't mean that you're never not happy. Like, we're still human beings. We still have these emotions, these up and downs, but it really is choosing happiness more than going the other direction. You know, it really is kind of a mindset to, you know, to make that decision to be happy, in my opinion. So
how do you define how do you define happiness for yourself?
I mean, it's really just, you know, being able to take a walk and, you know, experience new things and meet new people. And I think it comes back to that, the freedom of travel makes me very happy. So I think and I think for all of us, that definition is somewhat different, because we are all individuals. We all have our own free will and our own decision. So like you and I were talking about prior to recording, our lifestyles aren't for everyone. So our lifestyle isn't going to automatically make someone else happy. As you were talking about, your parents were saying that they could never do what you do by not planting yourself in one spot. So, and I think that's the, kind of the quandary, so to speak, is that, happiness isn't the same. It's not, painting with a broad stroke. Happiness is different for all of us. And it's just, we have to find what it is that makes us happy and how we choose to be happy.
Yeah, it is an individual thing. I on that quest, because there's so many variables with it, right? What I found, you can tell me what you think about it. What I found is that because of all those variables, I cannot depend on the variables for my happiness. So that's how I kind of, stripped down that process where I realized, okay, fine, I can't depend on the relationship because that's not where the happiness comes. I can't depend on a career because that's not where the happiness comes. I can't depend on health because that's not, you see what I mean? Because then you're happy one day, but then you're not happy when something of those variables, kind of is not the way that you want it. So how it was for me in the end is it was a feeling. And my definition that I then, concluded it with is knowing who and what you are and living from that knowing. It's our natural state. And that is what it is for me. And I also I have a kind of a mindfulness technique that I use that I was taught by an Indian guy at that time that really helped me. And when I practiced that, for the first time, I felt who and what I was. And that really changed everything for me, that it was kind of that sigh of relief that what I was looking for, I found, because I resonate, I felt it. I think a lot of it, and I believe this, very firmly believe this, because even that old saying by Socrates is know thyself. And everybody knows this. We all know this, but it's so serious, actually.
Right.
It's really, I mean, if people can really grasp that you really do need to know what you are and who you are, to know what it means to be human, or what it means to be here, or what you're supposed to be doing, or that. I think that's what everybody's searching for, is themselves.
Right.
And once you find that, you will be happy. I mean, it's like find it. I don't know, that word find means like it's somewhere out there. But once you rediscover that, I think it's a process of rediscovering, and just like connecting with that feeling. And there's many ways that you can do it, but a lot has to do with kind of finding that stillness, or people can do it through prayer, or you're kind of, whichever way your journey takes in life. But I think you will know when you find it. I'm sure I mean, for me, it was like that. I knew that moment. It was finished now. I don't have to look for that anymore. It's fine now. I found it. It's okay.
Right.
So that was kind of what it was for me.
And how do you go about sustaining it?
Through this method that I practiced, I sustain it. And it's also kind of like with anything else, when you first tasted something, you know it now. You can't go back now and like untaste it. So it's almost like that. So it's like kind of when you found something, you have it, right? And now you have it forever. And yeah, but the sustaining is kind of like through this mindfulness practice, which I also teach in my my Yumi and Happiness flagship program or through my coaching. And I practice this. I'm supposed to do it every day. I do it almost every day. I did it now before the podcast, actually. So I do this, and it's like kind of four techniques that I practice that really like just takes me within and makes me feel that feeling. It's a feeling. As that feeling of who you are. It gives you that fulfillment and just that kind of a reminder, yes, of what is important in life, where everything else kind of just fades away in your mind. You know, it doesn't like, you don't think, you just kind of feel, and you are, and yeah, and you feel that knowing of who and what you are.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you think would be beneficial for our listeners?
Well, let's talk about, I would like to talk about 2023. What you think is this year is bringing? They say it's the year of unpredictability. What do you think about that?
I mean, I'm looking forward to 2023. I've got a couple more books on tap. So I don't, I mean, I think when they say unpredictability, I mean, what really is that predictable anyway? I mean, no one in the world predicted 2020 or, the way that would have went out, but yet, I look back and reflect on 2020 as one of the best years of our lives, because that was the year that, we sold everything and, started this journey. So, I still think it's, kind of individualized to an extent. So when, people say unpredictable, I mean, I don't think anything is all that predictable as well. And, I've recently become not getting too caught up in looking too far ahead. I prefer to try to, embrace the moment more so than anything than I ever had before in my life. And that doesn't mean I don't set goals or don't have, things I want to accomplish in 2023. Like I said, I want to get the 2 books I'm working on out and published. But yeah, I think 2023 is going to be a great year. That's just my opinion. And
I love that you say that. I really do. I love that because it's true. It's exactly true what you said. And you know what you're touching on is the fact that it's not good to sometimes, kind of hone in on these trends, what people say, and exactly what you say, because you can shape your own life.
right.
You can make like what's a bad year for somebody else can be your best year. And if you don't, if you kind of like just follow what you think, the path's going to be, then you might miss out on some great opportunities. I love that. Yeah, that's great. Tell me about your books.
So the first one that should be coming out this spring yet is actually a children's book that is being written as though our golden retriever is the author, and talking about our travels, through his eyes. He does his own blog, which is a big hit. And so we decided to do a children's book, and we just got the final illustrations back last week. And so now it's kind of like I've been chomping at the bit to get the illustrations back from my illustrator. And it's been a little bit of a test of my patience, but now it's like they're here, and now it's back on me to move it forward. And then the other one that I'm working on is is volume 2 of the Journey of My Mother's Son series. The first one, which just came out this past May, was Many Random Thoughts from the Road, which is exactly what what the subtitle says. It was whether a sunrise or a sunset or a walk on the beach or a walk through the mountains, something that inspired me to write. Not really, it's really a series of blogs, so to speak, put into a book. But it really is, random thoughts of what inspired me at that moment, where, Volume 2 will be Many Little People, again, kind of following the Many Little People in Many Little Places theme. So it'll talk about, the people that we've met, some who I don't even remember their names, but yet a 5 or 10 minute conversation at the foot of the Edmund Pettus Bridge made an incredible impact on my life. Or, a couple days, living next to someone in an RV resort, and getting to know them, made an impact on my life. So I'm looking forward to that. And, one thing that makes me a little nervous about that one is I know I'm going to leave someone have to have some sort of like disclaimer at the beginning of the book saying like, this is just a segment of the amazing people we've been able to on this journey. Certainly.
That's exciting. I love both of them. I mean, yeah,
It's like,
tell
so
me when it's
please
out.
don't take offense if you're not. So, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting both those wrapped up. And nothing ever happens as quickly as I want it to happen. So every day is still a test of my patience and my faith that it's in the right timing. So yeah, I think 2023 is just going to be a great year, regardless of what anyone else says, unpredictable or not. I think it's going to be a great year for sure.
Yeah. About the timing that you're saying, I always love this. I heard it from somebody else, that they say the only way that you can miss your agreements with other people, the timings of things, is if you worry about missing those agreements. But there's no way that you can miss these things that you're supposed to be doing in life. But right. You can kind of block the process if you focus on worrying about that.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts of what 2023 might bring for you?
For me, you know what, I'm very optimistic about this year as well. I feel it is gonna be different, obviously, than last year. Last year was kind of a year, lots of things were going on, and I kind of like we're climbing out from this residency thing here in Portugal. But this year I feel more open, and I think it made a difference for me also going back home to South Africa, where I hadn't been for 6 years. So I feel good about this year. I didn't set massive goals, but I never do. I just kind of keep going on, and I have the same kind of goal forever, with my Yumi and happiness stuff. And it's always just going forward, and we're just growing like naturally as we do. And yeah, I don't have specific things. I am quite optimistic, and I would love to, kind of spend a bit more time in my community this year, and my Yumi and happiness communities. I took a bit of a step away from social media towards end of last year. I just didn't feel like it. I felt like, I just didn't feel like being so much on social media. I just every time, as I told you, when I don't enjoy things that much, I just don't do it, because I feel this is not good for me or for, I mean, I still do the necessary things that I'm supposed to be doing, but not so constantly involved in that. But yeah, I feel I want to be more involved in my community this year, and also do some more volunteer work as well. I know you're also involved in that, and I'm happy about this year. I can feel some things opening up in myself, some different things, I'm excited for the developments of this year. But I feel very optimistic.
Cool. So Helen, how do people get a hold of you, find you on the internet? How can they get a copy of your books, all that fun stuff? Where can they find Helen?
Yes, I'll probably also need to mention just, kind of what I do. It's not just about the books, but everything is on my website. As I do the dinner upgrades as well, where I remove these mental blocks using this energy technique that I have, and I do this in 15 minutes. And because I know a lot of people have mental blocks or anything that you're stuck with. So that's what I help with. I specifically focus on helping entrepreneurs, but of course this can work for anybody. And you can find all my details on my website, youmeandhappiness.com. Everything written out. youmeandhappiness.com. And then I'm also on social media. Yeah.
Love it. All right, so Helen, that brings us to our final question. As you know, the subtitle of the podcast is Many Little People in Many Little Places, which comes from the opening lyrics of a Michael Franti song, Gloria, which go, when many little people in many little places do many little things, then the whole world changes. So it's one of the little things that Helen does on a daily basis to make the world a little bit better place.
Can I only say one? What do I do? Well, I purposefully go out every day and try to at least, put a smile on somebody's face. I don't take my phone with me when I go outside, like in a town like this, because I do kind of focus on just giving my full attention to people, and I feel that's a little thing, but I think it's good when you can give your full attention to somebody and really just kind of hold space for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just something little I do just where I am. And then in my community every day, and I've been doing this for years, I post something inspirational, and you'll be surprised that, something like that does make a difference for somebody just when they have a bad day, and or they share it and can help somebody else who has a bad day. So that's something I do as well.
Yeah, I love it.
What do you do?
I just try to throw as much positivity out there as I can. One of the little things that I'll do is just hold the door for somebody when we're going in, when we're going into a building, stranger, someone I know, it doesn't matter. But, and that just, even that little gesture, you can see they just kind of brighten up and, exchange smiles by simply holding the door for them as they go into a building. So, yeah, that's one of the little things that I do for sure.
I also say to animals, I love them. Every time I see an animal, I love doing that. I said, I love you. There's these little horses in the camp just next to where I stay now. There's a little white pony and a brown one. And every time I walk past there to the store, I'm like, I love you.
Another one of the little things I do is just taking my dog around to have him put smiles on people's faces, because he absolutely loves cheering people up. He, so whenever we're walking, it's his goal to have as many people that he possibly can, stop to pet him and smile and that sort of thing. So sharing him with the world is one of the little things I do as well. So yeah, I love this conversation, Helen. I really appreciate the time. For those out there listening, be sure to check out my other podcasts and blogs at journeymymotherson.com or danclouser.com. While you're there, pick up a copy of one of my books, Journey My Mother's Son, Volume 1, Beauty of a Diamond Through the Eyes of a Coach, or upcoming 4 Paws and 6 Wheels Across America, The Adventures of Eucalyptus the Golden Retriever. So that'll be available shortly. Helen, again, really appreciate the time. It's a great conversation. I wish you nothing but the best in your remaining world travels.
Thank you so much, Dan. I really loved being on here. Thanks for your time as well and for inviting me. And I wish you also the best.